Hello guys, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Model Bench, and as you can see we've got the grey cutting mat out, which means only one thing: it's another Build Better Models for Beginners series. So in this video I'm sort of using this, I'm doing a B17 build and I'm going to use the kit as part of making this video, as the substance if you like of the video. And this video is going to be all about the first steps to do when you get yourself a kit. Now I haven't covered washing sprues before, I'm going to cover them now. So here we have a kit. This is a Revell 1/72 scale Memphis bell. It's a lovely little kit, quite complex, a little bit soft in places, but for a 72nd scale B17 and for the price it's 30 quid, it's lovely. I think the Airfix one is nicer, but I wanted an F, I didn't want a G, and Airfix only do a G. So there we go. So you've got your kit, you've had a look at it, you've read all your instructions, you're ready to go, and you're ready to jump on it and get in. So first thing you do is get all your sprues out of the box. You can see I've got some aftermarket masks there for it. Now the first thing I would recommend with a Revell kit is get rid of the box and find yourself another box to keep your parts in, or close the box up again, sellotape the end shut, and then cut the top open and then make like a flap so it becomes a top opening box, because these end opening boxes are horrible. They're generally too big, they're soft, they get crushed in your stash whenever you put anything on top of them. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to put the instructions over there, we don't need them. So we're going to get all our sprues, all our bags, make sure nothing's loose in there, and we're going to make sure first of all as well, we're going to make sure our decals are out of the way, because the last thing we want to do is get our decal sheet wet. So we're going to put our decal sheet, decal sheet, where depending where you are in the world, there inside our instructions, so that's nicely prepared and out of the way. So over here I have a box and I've put something on top of it. So there we go. So this box is much smaller. You can see compared to the Revell box, you can see the difference in size, okay? And also it's rigid and it's top opening, and what we can do then, we can put our sprues in this box, we can put our instructions and everything at the bottom, just like that, okay? And then our sprues will fit in. Now I'm probably going to have an issue with depth initially, because they're the fuselage sprues and there's the fattest. But you can see here I can drop those sprues in there, I can drop the fuselage sprue in on top of there and almost close it, but once we get a few parts off the sprue we'll be laughing. So you can see now I've got a rigid box, and when I close it up everything's secure, nothing's rattling around, nothing's going to get damaged, so that's all good. Just remember, if it's like this, don't put anything on top of it because it's going to crush it. So now we can take the Revell box and not throw it away, but what we'll do is we'll take a knife and we'll cut the tape on the end of there, open the end up just like so, and then we can fold it flat, open this end up as well. Open that end up, fold it flat, stick it behind a bookcase or something. I would recommend keeping hold of it until you've finished your build, because you may want to look at these pictures, you may want to read some of this information here, you may want to look at your paints or whatever. Just keep the box until you're finished with it. So that's my advice there, so that's a lot neater. So we've got our box now. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take these sprues downstairs and wash them. Why are we going to wash them? Well, the reason is manufacturers use, or some manufacturers use release agent, and basically the release agent is on the kit when it comes out of the mould. Now you will also see sometimes on ejector pin marks, let's see if I can find any on here. You will sometimes see on ejector pin marks, you will sometimes see oily marks. Now those oily marks, I'll tell you what, I'll show you when I get downstairs if I find any, I'll show you when we get to the sink. But basically if you get oily marks on your ejector pin marks, the ejector pin marks are the circles you see on the parts. Like if you look on this tail here, you can see these circles. If we can get them in the light, you can see there are circles on here, okay? And they are called ejector pin marks, and you can see there's some there with oil around it, okay? That's what you want to be getting rid of. You can see it's wet oil. I can remove it. If I get a cotton bud, you can see it is not just a brown stain on the plastic, it is actually oil. So that is on your model. That is not release agent, that is oil they've lubricated the tool with. Okay, the ejector bin marks are actually moving parts. The release agent is something they spray on the tool, and it's sometimes silicone based, and you will sometimes feel it on the surface. Sometimes you'll see me do reviews and the parts are actually physically wet, and it looks very much like baby oil. It's a kind of clear oily liquid, and this, to be honest, actually feels quite oily, so I think this is going to benefit from a wash. Now, you're not really going to get much benefit from washing the fuselage halves, because you're going to be holding them, handling them to sand them and do the seams and everything. But the little bits and pieces like this, with all the little nooks and crannies in them, if they've got release agent, when you paint them, the paint will just fall off, or you won't be able to paint it at all. Okay, so that's why we wash them. Airfix always tell you in their instructions to wash the parts first. I always recommend washing the parts first, so that's what we're going to do. And now I've told you why we're going to do it. Let's go and physically actually do it. Okay, so here we are at the sink with our B17 sprues, and as you can see, got them in the new box. Right, so first thing to do, get all the sprues out, and what we're going to do is make sure we've got our sprues out and they're all good. I'm running out of room here because the camera is where I would normally put the sprues. These sprues will take, these bags will take together. So we're going to put our sprues down here, make sure there's no loose parts in the bags, and then we're going to fold the bags up, put them out of the way. So we can do that for all the sprues, and that will be that. Okay, so if you hear any funny noises in the background, like a clattering noise, today is Sunday the 21st of January 2024, and it's blowing a gale outside, and the clattering is the little air vents that are in the ceiling. This is the utility room, and there's little air vents, and you can hear the doors on them clattering. So what we're going to do, we're going to get some water in the sink. Now, this is the hot tap, obviously, and I'm not going to use just hot water. The other thing is, I'm just going to plug the sink. Now, you could do this in a bowl if you want to, but quite often it's not easy to find a bowl big enough. The other thing people do is they'll put a piece of mesh or something in the plug hole, just in case. So what you don't want to do is take the plug hole, let the water run out the end, and lose parts down there. So what we're going to do is make sure we don't lose any parts in there. And when it comes to draining the sink, I'll show you how that's done. So basically, we're going to do this. We're just going to let this water run in here. It's running hot now. It was running cold to start with. And what we want is a kind of semi-warm. It's very difficult to explain. I haven't got a thermometer to actually measure the temperature, but it's kind of, you know, very comfortable. You can just leave your hand in it. It's not going to scald you, but it's clearly warm. You know, you don't want it so hot that you can't. It's probably about the right temperature you bath the baby in. Having never had a baby, I wouldn't know, but that's about it. So I'm going to top it up with a bit of cold, just to get the temperature down a touch. And we're going to use fairy liquid. You can use any washing up liquid, but I'm just using soap liquid, and I've just put on my shopping list for next week to get a new bottle of this. I have a dishwasher, so I don't really use it. I only use it for modelling kits, for washing plastic model kits. So there we go. So that's that. That's some more hot, some more cold. And as you can see, when I put the cold on, the hot pressure goes. But we need a good sort of. I mean, we can look at there, our sprues are sort of down to my thumb, so we need a little bit more than this. Obviously, there's no point in wasting hot water, but there we go. So there's our mix. We can always top it up if necessary. So what we're going to do is put the sprues into the water. Okay, just looking first of all to make sure there's no obviously loose parts hanging off. And with modern kits, they're generally very good. Now, these sprues are perfectly sized for this sink. Quite often the sprues will be bigger like they are on the Hong Kong Models kit, and I will show you with that one how we go about washing them. All I'm doing here is just putting the sprue in and out of the water just to get some agitation going, okay? We don't want to be scrubbing it or anything, scrubbing it with a toothbrush. You don't need to do that. The release agent that's on there should be water soluble and should come off quite easily. Same with these little sprues. Again, checking we've got no sort of really loose parts hanging off. We can just agitate that a bit. There we go. We can put that one down over there. We've got another large one here. Okay, same again. We'll just agitate the sprues. And as I say, guys, this really is worth doing on any kit you're building, whatever it is. It really is worth doing, because there's nothing worse. you know, then say this is your fuselage interior here. You've got it all nicely painted. You've taken your time to get it all lovely. And then, excuse me, you have to put a decal on there. And as soon as you put the decal on, the paint just comes away. You know, because that is what will happen. When you mask something and when you pull the masking tape off, the paint just comes off with the masking tape. You need to ensure, especially if you're using water-based paints like Viejo or the AK, not the real colours, but the AK in the ordinary bottles, you need to make sure you've got, you know, good degreased plastic, because they don't stick to plastic at the best of times. I can see here we've got a part which is looking very dodgy. Okay, it looks like our tail wheel. So I'm going to take that off and put it on the side. Okay, rather than risk losing it. So we just swirl those parts around. Now, these parts are all important because these are the internal, like the Bombay detail. It's in these little nooks and crannies, and in the cockpit floor. That's where you will get the debris. Okay, or the release agent. Again, looking on here, can't see any real loose parts. So just dunking that in and out, just to agitate it a bit. And we can put that in the sink. Then we've got a fuselage sprue here, which, as we know, we've got oil on those ejector pin marks. Remember I said I was going to show you when we get down here. I've already shown you upstairs. There is oil around these ejector pin marks here. And you can see down in here there's oil which I've already wiped off, but you can see there's oil around that one there, and that's what we want to be getting rid of. And this may not get rid of that oil. If it is actual proper, you know, mineral oil, we're going to have to use some alcohol or something to get rid of it. There we go. And then finally we can just pick up all the sprues and just, don't forget, when you're cleaning stuff, guys, it's a factor in engineering with cleaning parts. There are 3 things you need: chemicals to clean the parts, heat, okay, so you need some warmth, and agitation. And those are the 3 critical components of washing. And then that part there, that, I think it's the tail wheel, just gonna give that a little run around on its own, and then we'll put that to one side so it'll be nice and safe. Okay, and then that there, we're just going to leave them to soak for a couple of hours, maybe a little bit less. We can just leave them to soak and until the water sort of goes cold, and then we can take them out and swirl them off. Okay, so about an hour and hour and 3/4 has gone by, and the water's now fairly cool. So now what we can do is take our parts out. So we're just going to take them out of the water, just give them a little tap, just to get most of the soap off if you can. Just like so. Okay. Not going too mad because we don't want to lose any parts. So we can just get them out, shake them off. As I say, this is great, a kit like this, because it all fits in lovely. I'm going to show you in a minute how you deal with a bigger kit. I'll use the Hong Kong models 1/48 P17. I'll show you how to wash that in a small sink, if this is all you've got. Now what you can do now is clear the bubbles away on the surface, as you can see, and I can pull them away, and I can see that I have no parts come off. Okay, we can see these tiny little metal things. This is absolutely amazing. These tiny little metal things are what I use in my tumbler to clean metal parts, and they just keep appearing. There's another one there. You know, you scrub the sink down, you scrub it, you scrub it, scrub it. The next time you use it, there's another one there. You just keep finding these things. It's amazing. So I know I have no loose parts in there, but just in case, what I'm going to do is just get the drain. And what I've done, I've just put it so it's just on its side, so the water is draining out very, very slowly, and no parts will get pulled because there's no... I'm hoping you can see that. You'll see it when the water is all gone. That drain is basically just literally on an angle rather than being in the hole properly. So it's just allowing the water to seep by. Now to speed things up, I'm going to lift it because I know I've got no parts in here. Famous last words. We'll probably see a part go shooting down there now. We'll have to get it out of the U-bin. But let's just let that water go down, and then I can show you how I put the You can see how I've put it there. You can hear it now gurgling. But you can see that it's just on an angle, and it's just allowing the water to go down slowly, okay? And the thing is, if you let the water go down slowly, nothing will be pulled. If there's a part over here, it'll just sit there, it won't get pulled in. So that's the way to do it, okay? So that's how the cookie crumbles. Right, so just going to swill everything off. And now with a cold running tap, I'm just going to literally get the parts and swill them under the tap, like so, just to get all the soap off. It doesn't matter if there's a few little bits and pieces left behind. You just want to try and get most of it off. It'd be great if you're in America, they generally have those pull-out squirty things, and that'd be wonderful because you can wash your parts off like that. But I don't have that luxury here. I could wash them in my kitchen sink, which has a big, which would be a lot easier, but I don't want to go doing this in the kitchen sink. Okay, we've got a small one now, which is obviously going to be really easy to swill off. And that's all you do, is just make sure, do your best to get most of the soap off, and then give them a good shake. Alright, just to, and the other good thing is, I should have done it, is put the cover in just to catch any parts that may fall off the sprue. I should have done that as a matter of course. Okay, so I'll carry on and get these swilled, and then I'll be back. Okay, I hope that was of value to you. So what I'm going to do now is go on and now show you how we deal with bigger sprues. Now, as you can see, this kit here, this again is a B17, but we can see the sprues are much larger. Okay, so what we can do here, in fact, the sprues aren't actually much larger. The fuselage and everything will be, but the actual sprues themselves look to be perfectly sink sized again. So what we'll do is we'll get down to the sink and wash these through, and I'll show you basically, if you do only have a small sink, how I go about washing the parts. So we'll get down to the sink and we'll get this one done next. Alright then guys, so here we are. I wanted to show you washing bigger sprues in the sink if you don't have a bigger sink. I mean, you can always wash them in the bath, you can wash them in the bottom of the shower or whatever, but you know, really you want to do it in the kitchen sink because it's a lot easier, you stood there. But if it's a big ship kit or something, you want to wash the hull, obviously you've got to do it in the bath. But so I've got my 1/48 scale B17F because it's a B17F double build I'm doing. But unfortunately, none of the parts in here, even the fuselage, are too big for the sink. And all of the sprues, even in the Hong Kong Models A20, the 1/32 scale kit, all of the sprues are big enough to go in this sink. So what I've done, I've got the sprue from my Hong Kong Models Lancaster. So this is one of the sprues. This is sprue, what's this? This is sprue O from the Lancaster 1/32 scale B1 kit. And as you can see, it's physically too big to fit in the sink. There's two ways you can go about this. You can find a neutral place where you want to cut, and you could maybe cut through there, and then cut there, and cut off that sprue. So you could cut here, 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 and here, and take that away and then actually fit it in there. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. The other way to do it is to put it in the water like this, okay, and have just half of it in, like that. All right, and then agitate it, do your agitation, do your stuff, and then turn it around. I don't want to get that box wet. Turn it around and do the same thing again, agitate, agitate. What I wouldn't recommend, particularly if you've got big parts like wings or something on there, I wouldn't recommend just sticking it in and leaving it. The reason for that is, if the water is slightly warm, it may, well under its own weight, slightly bow. You'll be able to get it back, it's no problem, but it may just bow. Now with this sprue, with all these small parts, that wouldn't matter. But if it is a long fuselage or a wing, or you know, a ship hull, you know, if you've got a hull in two halves, like on an Airfix ship kit or something, so make sure you don't leave it in the water for too long. Just take it out and let it dry, drip, rinse it, whatever, but I wouldn't actually go leaving it in the sink overnight, or even for a couple of hours. If you're going to soak your parts, the easiest way is to cut the sprue in half, as I say. But if you are new to the hobby, that may be a little bit confusing for you, because you may end up sort of not knowing where your parts are and stuff. So that's what I'm going to do there. The other thing you can do is maybe get it in diagonally. I mean, I can do that, put it in like that, but obviously I'm not going to do it and leave it like that. But if it's a sprue that's just a bit too big, you may be able to get it into the sink diagonally, as I say. So that sprue there, I'm going to stand over here in front of the camera, and I'm going to put these parts in. So once again, we've got big parts here from our 1/48 scale B17, and they can all go in at the bottom. Use that section there, give them a good swill. Now, I've never had an issue with Hong Kong models parts. In fact, I'm going to put these sections in last because they're going to stop the sprues fitting. So basically I'm just going to do the same as I did before. Put the sprues in, agitate them, leave them for a couple of hours, rinse them off, and then just as you can see I've done there, you can see there we've got the almost an Airfix then, we've got all the Revell sprues there all drying out. So I'm just going to carry on and do that the same, and then we'll call it a day for this video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned something from this. As I say, this video is going to be linked now into new builds. So when I talk about washing sprues, I don't have to bring the camera down and wash every sprue in front of you. I can just link it into this one. Okay, so thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you got something from it. Back again, guys. Just a couple of points I should have clarified. Number one, if you put your parts in and the water is not deep enough, don't ever run the hot tap. Okay, if you do have to run the hot tap, make sure there's no parts in the area, in that quarter of the sink, because your water might be extremely hot and it will cause damage to your plastic parts, particularly things like wings and fuselage halves. So just, if you can, just top up with the cold tap. That won't hurt anything. Okay, and just top up to get your levels up, and that'll do you absolutely fine. The other thing I was going to say is I wouldn't recommend putting the parts back into the bags that they came from. Reason being is if there is any excess oil on there or anything, any excess release agent, all you're going to do is rub it back onto the parts. So, you know, you can if you want to, but I mean, it's a very, very minimal thing. And I am being, you know, well over fussy here. As I say, most people don't even bother doing this. Okay, I would thoroughly recommend it, because I would rather spend 10 minutes doing this and waiting a few hours for them to dry than have problems down the line with paint peeling off under masking tape and everything. I would much rather do this now. It's much easier to do this than to sort, you know, a knackered up paint job. So yeah, don't ever run the hot water on top of the plastic parts, and I wouldn't recommend putting the parts back in their bags either. So these will just go back in the box loose. And as I say, we're going to be handling with our hands. We're going to be putting skin grease on them anyway. But what we'll do when we actually come to painting any major areas like wings or whatever, then we will we'll use some IPA or whatever on cloth and just wipe it over before it's painted. The other thing I wanted to say, actually, there is a third thing. You'll notice I haven't washed any clear parts. The reason I don't do that is you often get watermarks in them, and they can be very, very difficult to remove in enclosed areas or whatever. So I don't wash the clear parts. What I would recommend is when you actually come to, before you put your masks on, just give them a wipe over with a bit of IPA on a cotton bud, so that when you paint your frames, the paint goes down well. Because again, if there's release agent on your clear parts, when you peel your masking away, you're likely to peel the paint off with it. So it's just worth remembering. Preparation, as we all know, with decorating and car painting and everything, preparation is king, and this is part of your preparation. Okay, so as I say, I'll say goodbye again. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all soon.